Oh, that beautiful Anthem trailer. I think I watched it about 7 trillion times. I loved the idea that Anthem presented before it launched. I became the #1 streamer for Anthem when the game launched, and this is not a new story of BioWare launching a multiplayer game and then it falling completely flat, falling on its face. You guys weren't already aware. Currently, EA is reviewing Anthem right now and determining whether they're going to can this game permanently. And we don't know what the answer is to that question. In today's episode, we're going to explore whether we think EA is going to can this game. And if they do decide to keep it up and running, what are they going to do with it? And if they decide to close it down, what happens to BioWare then? This was their biggest marketing launch and yet another failure in a long line of failure after failure after failure with BioWare. But one of the things that really strikes me, and I know strikes you, Andrew Perrin, about this is we've seen the story play out before. In fact, we saw it play out in 2011 as we kicked off our careers on YouTube doing multiplayer games for BioWare, right?
Yeah, so we got into Star Wars: The Old Republic. That's how we actually first started collaborating, AWOL and myself, covering that game. We covered it pre-launch, we covered it into launch, and it kind of flopped. Kind of being an understatement. We made so much content for that game, ready for like the biggest trend out there, and BioWare failed with it. So we had to kind of like change gears after that, retool years of work that we had spent putting into this, and try to get as much as we could and move on afterwards. Are we going to see that again? I don't know.
Makes sense. And this is one of our videos that we did, Jedi Knight versus Sith Inquisitor, that you just saw on the screen there, which was a really fun video. Got a couple 100,000 views back in 2011, and we've seen the same story play out. Just really quick, I want to share with you, BioWare is horrible at multiplayer games. Horrible. They've always been absolutely terrible at it. This game, Star Wars: The Old Republic, when we covered it, it had zones in the game where the average frame rate on the biggest and best PC in the world, the average frame rate was 9 frames per second. Ilum, I believe it was called. And they threw together the multiplayer and PvP elements of this game back in 2011, like literally 9 months before the game launched. Actually, the guy who is doing Cyberpunk Online right now, the guy who's in charge of that, he actually threw together the PvP for this game on the fly for Star Wars: The Old Republic, actually, which is really interesting. BioWare doesn't know how to do multiplayer. Anthem is yet another failure, so is EA going to improve another multiplayer disaster? All of that and more in this episode of the Digital Drop Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io? Man, oh man. I mean, this trailer, they had a warning on this trailer before we played it today. We were concerned that maybe they were trying to keep people from seeing the trailer because it had such bad PR. Ross, how are we going to tackle this topic? Because this is essentially a multi-$100 million franchise in the balance right now here in 2021.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we were talking about doing this episode this morning, I actually went and Googled, and I just Googled Anthem and looked at the news. And the most recent article was from Flores, from Paul Tassi, who I actually like. This is certainly not a knock on him. Anthem 2.0 fans draw power from dozens of other game communities for hashtag I Believe in Anthem campaign. When I see hashtag I Believe in Anthem campaign, my first thought is, let's go to Twitter and let's see what this campaign's actually doing. And it was really refreshing to see 6 people had tweeted I Believe in Anthem since midnight, and half of those were bots. So all three of you may believe in Anthem, but it sure doesn't look like EA and BioWare do. So actually, let's start there. When was the last time that they actually even had a hit game? Seriously, when was the last time that BioWare had a hit game?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Inquisition. Dragon Age Inquisition? Is that what it was? Perrin, tell us about it.
It's been a decade. It's literally been a decade at this point.
It's the last one. I think it won some awards. It's the last one that they did that I can think of before Mass Effect, Andromeda, and all that phase came into play. So Mass Effect 1 and 2, great. Dragon Age 1 and 2, great. Dragon Age Inquisition was like the last one, and now they're still working on Dragon Age 3, I think. And the thing is, so next on our list is Christian Daly, the head of Anthem 2.0 reboot, moving on over to Dragon Age. So Mark Darrah, who he stepped down. And Christian Daly, who was on Anthem, is now taking over Dragon Age. So who's on Anthem?
Yeah, so
Well,
this
this
was
is
the guy that the community was really celebrating, right? Christian Daly. He was presenting some blog posts, presenting the new vision for the game, essentially. And all the YouTubers that were still covering the game were like, look, this Christian Daly guy, he's amazing. He's listening to the community. He's putting all the systems we want in place. They're overhauling gear. They're putting in new areas, doing new biomes, you know, doing all of these incredible things that everybody wanted to see from Anthem. New armor, a fresh new take on the game, etc. Keeping the good things and, removing the bad things. This guy was the superstar that was the savior of the Anthem franchise, and now he is gone. So there's literally no one in charge of Anthem right now. And so EA is now imagine being EA, stepping into BioWare and being like, okay, so should we keep this game? Should we keep it around and be like, all right, so let me talk to the boss. And then they're like, well, there is no boss. So we have this table full of managers that are managing the project, but we don't actually have anyone in charge. Huge red flag. If I was a corporate executive thinking, am I going to fund a project, dump tens of millions, hundreds of millions more on a project, and they can't even determine who's in charge of it? Do you think that's going to inspire confidence in corpos that are looking to make big money? They want to talk to the boss. They want to hold the boss accountable. They want to know what the vision is. They want to know who's going to be in charge. Christian Daly, he's not in charge. Literally no one is. I mean, to me, that significantly decreases the probability that they're going to even move forward on this game. If BioWare can't get their shit together to even appoint anyone to be in charge of the game, why would anyone fund the game? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it really makes a lot of sense. Number one, they need to be focusing on Dragon Age. Let's just call it what it is. Anthem is a complete and utter failure. And I don't say that to be mean, because I know the developers put in a lot of work, and there were probably a lot of restraints and a lot of handcuffs involved with developing this game. But their moneymaker is going to be Dragon Age. This is, and God, we all know EA and how they feel about money. They have to be looking at Anthem right now and saying, there is no way that we can make our money back on this, and we need to cut our losses. Because you're also talking about, they have a 30-person team on board for Anthem right now, I believe. That's not an official number. They're going to have to escalate that to 90 from what the Forbes article says. That's a lot of paychecks they have to, put out there, and you're not going to get a lot of return for it. So another thing that is worth mentioning here is more about losing your fan base. And there is no better way than losing your fan base, AWOL, we talk about this all the time, than not releasing new content. When was the last time that new content actually released on this game?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was the release year. So last year they didn't do any new content. They had some like holiday updates in late 2019 were the holiday updates, and then they've just kind of recycled the same updates over and over and over again, the same content, cycled the same content through the store and what have you on Anthem all throughout 2020. We're now in 2021, and so of course what this results in, and they made the game more or less free to play or close to it, made it $10. When they made the game $10, it actually spiked the active player count on all platforms. There was a huge influx, actually, of tons of people that came in to play the game. They joined the subreddit. If you want to pull that up, Perrin, here on the screen. The subreddit was brought back to life. Right now, as you can see, there's only 748 people on the subreddit. When the game launched, there was like 20 to 30,000 at any given point. That's a good indication of the hardcore fan base. When they made the game about $10 or whatever, that actually really spiked. The interest on the subreddit went back up to like 9 to 10,000, and they had a lot of interest in the game. They really did. And then there was no new content. So there were a lot of posts going on where people were saying, I love the gameplay in this game. I love the foundation of this game. Wow, taking screenshots, people being wowed by the world, wowed by the experience of playing the game and entering this universe for the first time. And really, it really is an awe-inspiring experience. It's one of the most beautiful RPG worlds I've ever seen. But it's shallow as that, right? And everything underneath the skin level, surface gameplay is a total disaster. So can you keep interest up in your game with no updates for a year and a half, essentially, at this point? Absolutely not, you cannot. And No Man's Sky, a lot of people are talking about, will this game pull a No Man's Sky? No Man's Sky didn't take this approach at all, right, Ross?
No, this isn't even a comparison. Putting Hello Games in the same position here as BioWare. Well, number one, the first thing we need to say is Hello Games owned up to it immediately. And then they immediately, under the leadership, that thing that you have to be successful under Sean Murray, they took it to the next level with No Man's Sky. They said, all right, we fucked up here. We're going to make it up to you guys. We're going to give you the full game that we promised you plus more, and then they delivered. And that's why Hello Games, even despite having a bomb of a launch, which they deserve the criticism for, that's why they're probably going to be one of the most reputable gaming companies out there, because they followed through with their word. We don't know shit about what BioWare is thinking. We got a blog that says, oh, Anthem 2.0, we're going to do it. And like a year ago, no more updates or anything like that. Like I'm starting to feel like this is a dead game. Like I don't see any scenario where it's smart to actually release Anthem 2.0. And as I say that, I'm realizing in my head, that's probably a good reason why EA may actually do it.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. That is like some next level 2000 IQ stuff. EA is horrible at business and making good business decisions. And you know what? They might just quadruple down on this game and say, you know what? There's nobody in charge of the game. There's been no new content in a year and a half. The community is going to want the game for free. That's another thing we didn't put on our list. The community's not going to pay any money for this game. They're going to want it for free. And so we're going to fund it. Like, come on, man. Well, corporate executive, like if they re-release Anthem and they say, pay us $60 for it, the internet will shit all over this game because they didn't deliver a complete game in the first place. The community expects Anthem 2.0 to be free. So do you think BioWare can come up with a successful free-to-play multiplayer model? Do you remember Star Wars The Old Republic? It was a freaking disaster. It was a middling game. It was just like Anthem in that it had a massive, and if you want to pull up Google Trends and show us the Google Trends here, Perrin, I would even like to pull up Star Wars The Old Republic by comparison. Both of these games suffered a similar fate. Star Wars The Old Republic had one of the biggest interest spikes in the history of YouTube. See, it was just a massive, massive spike. As you can see, if you go back to 2008 to present, it was, you see that red line right there? It was probably the most hyped game, believe it or not, for those of you that haven't been around for a long time. It was probably the most hyped game launch in the history of YouTube, Star Wars The Old Republic. Literally every gaming YouTuber and gamer was going to YouTube checking out this game. Star Wars The Old Republic had that big launch hype spike when it came out, and then it totally, as you can see, was literally decimated after that. The interest dropped down, and it never recovered. It had a couple mini spikes along the way with new content, and it never recovered. And so why would Anthem be any different? What lessons has this company learned to make it any different? As we can see, they're just repeating the same thing. You see how the timeline here for Anthem looks nearly identical? Big spike, drops down to decimation, and then will never recover again. So for me, it's really difficult to believe that there's any reason at all that they won't repeat history. But you know what? This is a lot of bad news. But don't we have some good news, Ross, about how some free stuff that our audience can win?
We do. First, just adding on to what you said about the game being free, I don't think the word free has ever even come up in an EA board meeting. Let's remember who we're talking about here. if there's free attached to this, then it's 100% not going to happen, especially with EA behind it. But the good news you are talking about is we do have a gaming creator bundle sweepstakes. We are giving away some really cool shit here from Rhodes. We're giving away a pro podcast production studio, a Procaster microphone, studio boom arm microphone, shock mount, pop filter, restream standard license, 3 months, TubeBuddy Legend license, 3 months, and that's an $1,100 value. We're going to be giving that away now. We're actually going to be giving a lot of this away all year. I'm dropping the link down here in the comments. Go visit it. It's really easy to enter, and you can take your production quality to the next level.
It's literally free to enter, guys. Like you don't have to. You're not getting entered into some marketing funnel. There's no catch really. Like you just like click some of the buttons for free entry methods, and that's it. It's really that simple. We're not selling you a webinar later on or anything like that. It's just literally follow us on Twitter. There's an entry. Follow us on Twitch. There's an entry. Stuff like that. Back to you, Ross.
Yeah. So let's move on and let's go over why else this game is. If it comes out, it's going to fail, but why it could potentially still come out. Actually, no. Do we have a timeline for this at all, guys? Have they given us? I know we got a blog post saying this may happen. Oh, cool. Is there any timeline whatsoever for this to happen? Are we looking at Anthem 2.0 on the off chance that it does happen? You know, this could be 4 or 5 years down the line. At what point do the people at BioWare say, okay, I don't think people care anymore?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll address this one. I'd love to get Perrin's take on it. But YouTubers out there, Your Anthem, one of my favorite YouTubers for this game, has been covering this and kind of speculating about if they did approve funding for Anthem Next or Anthem 2.0. He has given it a lot of thought, done a lot of research, talked to a lot of developers, etc. And what he was kind of determining, based on what BioWare literally told us, how they were in like pre-production right now. They're not even in pre-production. They're like in the concepting phase, essentially, of what Anthem Next is. We're probably looking at 4 years from now, Anthem Next coming out, 3 to 4 years minimum. And so, you guys would have to wait until 2024 or 2025 for this game to come out if it's approved. Like, once again, think about that from the perspective of EA executives. Okay, so you're telling me you don't have anybody in charge of this game. You guys don't really have anything done, really, other than pre-production for this game. There's only 30 people on the project right now. The community and the player engagement numbers in terms of active players is probably down to just about nothing. And you want us to fund you with millions and millions of dollars for the next 3 to 4 years to release a game to an audience that won't even pay money for it. Is that what you want to tell me? I mean, look, am I exaggerating here, Perrin? I mean, this is the situation these corpos are looking at. I know, because I used to be a corpo. What do you think, buddy?
I mean, look, the clock is ticking. Ross, you're asking about, is there a timeline? Yeah, there's a doomsday clock ticking for this game. As of February 8th, 2021, there was some inside info that EA is, taking a look to see, is this a project they want to continue? And we haven't heard of a verdict yet. It's been 10 days or more since then. Right now, the team, like as we said before, includes 30 people. They would have to triple that. That's a lot of hires. That's a lot of new hires, right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of cash. If you're in the EA corporate, room there with the long table and everyone's sitting there with their hands on their heads on their chin, and they're like, we're gonna pay lots of money to revive this turd, or we're gonna polish the turd, which everyone knows is a bad idea, by the way. Like, everyone in business knows this is a bad idea. Or do we just cut our losses and move on and make Dragon Age the best thing it can possibly be? It says to me that the only decision that they would possibly make is the latter. Is that the only smart business decision is to cut the losses, because otherwise you're doubling down on more losses. You got to hire triple the people. There's no guarantee that, and now you're hiring triple the people. There's no guarantee you're going to get like good people. There's no leadership, so you have to you have to get the right leader in place. That sounds like a lot of work and a lot of money. Whereas let's just put all that work and money into Dragon Age. Make that better. Why would we not double down on something that still has a chance, other than something that's pretty much dead? And then in that meeting room, do you think that they're sitting there like, well, guys, I know we don't want to put money into this, but what does the community think? Have you seen the hashtag Believe in Anthem? Do you guys?
Yeah, corporate executives care so much about that. They do. Yeah. They're going to be like, look, in the PowerPoint presentation, I want you to know this post on Reddit got 796 uptokes. So, therefore, I would like you to approve, moves to the next slide. I would like you to approve this $78 million budget for the next 3 years to get the game up and running so it can be free to play. Sound good, KK? Perrin, you'd approve that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, because of my history in community management, I love feedback from the community, and it really, and generally speaking, getting feedback from the community is important. But no one listens to the community manager from like the mid-level management up. No one cares. That position is there just to field the fires, not to actually filter good info up top. You can get a good community manager who's like gung ho and really wants to make a difference, and he or she will be in there like bringing in the feedback from the fans to the higher ups, and they'll pretend like they care, but they don't give a fuck because the money doesn't matter. Like,
can we start
you're not making any money.
Can we start a GoFundMe for the community manager for Anthem, because they're going to need a job here soon? Because
Have they even had one for like?
Well, number one, if I were the community manager of Anthem, why would you want to stay there? You know that this isn't going to work out. And I'm not knocking them. A job is a job, especially nowadays. I wish them best of luck in their career after this fails. But and there's actually some comments in here that make good points about Cyberpunk. Is it surprising to you guys at all that what happened to Cyberpunk didn't happen to Anthem, that this wasn't pulled from stores like the PlayStation Store and things like that? It even feels like the press wasn't near as negative for Anthem compared to what it was to Cyberpunk, but it's arguably just as much. It's more of a failure, especially financially.
I'm going to disagree with that. Everything you said, actually. I'm going to disagree with literally everything you said. Sorry. But
I was asking. I don't know.
Anthem was a playable game on all platforms. You could actually play the game. So that's a huge difference between Anthem and Cyberpunk, right? So Anthem was playable on platforms. The issue with Anthem is that the game was just bad. That's the difference between Cyberpunk and Anthem, right? Like Cyberpunk, the core game, almost every reviewer agrees, if they played it on PC, it's an amazing game in many, many ways. The world is next level. The graphics are literally the best graphics to ever be in a video game ever. The story is actually good. Like, there's actually a lot of meat on the bone that's good. It was half-baked and they released it too early. Whereas with Anthem, there was only a couple things about the game at all that were good, right? The gameplay, fun. Flying around and beating stuff up, fun. Shooting stuff with your guns, fun. And that's it. The rest of the game was garbage, essentially. I know, because I played 150 hours of the game and I streamed it every single day. I was the top streamer for the game. So that's a huge difference between these things. Anthem was a working product, but it was a bad product. Ultimately, it had no depth. Whereas Cyberpunk is a malfunctioning product, but it actually is a good product underneath that. Second big difference between these games, Anthem way underperformed their expectations in terms of sales. Cyberpunk still had 8 million pre-orders and made back all of its money just on pre-orders. And as of December, in the numbers they released on Cyberpunk, that game actually paid for itself already, despite the fact that it's not even on the PlayStation Store. Not to mention all of the merchandising opportunities they've done with Cyberpunk, the book, the comic, the movie, the anime, all of the Cyberpunk universe they're now monetizing is a ultra mega super cash cow. And people are still interested in Cyberpunk today, by the way, despite the quote-unquote failed launch. Modding community is going crazy. Subreddit still has thousands and thousands of concurrent people in it. This game is still hot. There's still a lot of meat on the bone. There's still a lot to monetize there with Cyberpunk 2077. That's the big difference between what we saw with Anthem and what we're seeing with Cyberpunk. Anthem requires a ton of money for maybe you get results, whereas Cyberpunk, you invest a ton of money, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a ton of results because the IP is so compelling. It is such a cool looking game and a cool looking universe that people are just in love with. People, despite the failed launch of Cyberpunk 2077, are going to pre-order anything they do related to this game, no matter what they tell you. That's the big difference here, and the executives in these respective companies know it. What are your thoughts on that, Perrin?
I mean, that was a one-trick pony, actually. They cashed CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk. This is the last I'm saying, because of these differences. They cashed in on their company's goodwill. And so Cyberpunk was, as a game, a failure because it didn't work. But as a product, was a huge financial success. And as a business, a huge financial success because they traded in their company's goodwill for cash. So a lot of us don't think nearly as positively about CD Projekt Red anymore because they traded that in for cash and they made a ton of money. BioWare did not have any goodwill to trade in for cash. And this game did not make any money for them. In fact, it's been a loss. So when we're looking at this discussion that they're having, EA, that is the main head ticket item is, hey, this game, money. We've been losing on this game. When do we start winning? And how much more is it going to take for us to win? Or is it even possible at all? I would argue, in my opinion, that it is not possible to win from the company corporate perspective at all on this game. Cut the losses, move on. I hate to ruin everyone's dream, but when you look at it from the financial perspective, that is the only decision to make, in my opinion.
Yeah, the game never showed itself to be financially viable. That's the issue. They even had a microtransaction store set up within the game, right? Where you could buy cosmetics and what have you for Anthem. I participated in that. I liked some of it. But at the end of the day, that was the monetization test for the franchise. And it didn't monetize well. That's why they didn't make a lot more cosmetics. That's why they shut the service down. That's why they stopped updating it, is because it wasn't making money. Do you think BioWare would have shut Anthem's development down if it was making a ton of money? No. A lot of people think that like community feedback and the press is the reason why they shut the game down. It's not. Companies don't make decisions based on community feedback and what the press says. Companies make decisions based on whether it's making money. And Anthem didn't make anywhere near enough money. And that's why it didn't work out. Yet another tick against this. But Ross, we gotta go through the rest of these points because we are dissecting this game. We're slicing and dicing it. By the way, I love Anthem. I no longer believe in it, though, unfortunately. Back to you, Ross.
Just to kind of go back to your point that there's a lot of meat on the bones. Please take it from me that having a lot of meat on the bones is not always a healthy thing. By the way, we are brought to you by Restream.io. Stop streaming to one platform and stream to them all. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook Gaming, Twitter, DLive, Trovo. We're on all of them right now. In case one of them happens to die, you've got an audience built up on all of them. Links in the comments. Go down there and get 30% off your first month with Restream.io. Moving down the list of things, the internal issues, I think we need to go back to that. I think that's probably going to be the most important point that we make today. They haven't been solved. Like this has been a year that has just been sitting there collecting dust, no updates, but most importantly, the internal issues are still very, very prominent. And on top of that, you do have a game like Dragon Age coming out. So I think it comes down to now is, will these internal issues even be solved at all?
Perrin.
The internal culture at BioWare. I remember it was a Kotaku article that came out. I don't have the source up here right now.
Jason Schreier is always the internal article.
By Jason Schreier, and it just there was talks about, you know, BioWare employees would have to like lock themselves into empty rooms to cry. It sounded like borderline abusive, and they had this thing of the BioWare like magic, where like during crunch time, there isn't really a plan. They just rely on the BioWare magic to make it happen, because that's how Dragon Age 1 became amazing. That's how, you know, Mass Effect 1 became amazing. And that was actually the magic ran out, I guess, you know, and we haven't really seen, I mean, any sort of indication that that's been fixed. All we've actually seen has been rotating leadership, which is actually a sign that it has not been fixed. It's actually a sign that there's still a lot of churn, which means there's still a lot of chaos. There's still a lot of internal struggle. The fact that the leadership, Casey Hudson, was on the project, that story hit by Jason Schreier, then Casey Hudson was off the project because of that. And then a little while after the news died down about that, Casey Hudson was brought back on to the project, and then Casey Hudson left the project again. So you have this cycling leadership. That means none of the internal issues at BioWare have been solved whatsoever. None of them have been solved. So you still have the same toxic company culture. None of it has been solved because it's at the leadership level, and the leadership hasn't changed, like the top head leadership. And because it hasn't changed, we're not getting a game, guys. We're not getting a game that's going to be good because we don't have developers working in a good environment. We don't have a company that has good corporate structure, and they're all over the place. I would be surprised in the next 10 years if BioWare even exists as a company, to be honest. If they have not solved these things yet. It's all going to ride on Dragon Age. And if Dragon Age kind of fails, then the company is done, in my opinion.
They've got Mass Effect also in there, but they're digging out of a hole on that one, though. They're completely digging out a hole on this one. I'm interested in you bring up that point of in 10 years, is BioWare even going to exist? I figured, I like just looking at it now, I figured like this would be a very cheap buy for a company like Microsoft to swoop in and grab them and put a new team in charge of the company. That's, I think, their best chance of survival. This BioWare magic that everyone speaks of, I'm just going back. The Mass Effect games are good. The Dragon Age games are good. But outside of that, I mean, it kind of looks like the magic is just sticking a sparkler in a turd. Like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. So one thing I want to talk about here, and it's, these decisions, we want to answer the question definitively and dissect it. Is Anthem 2.0 actually coming? And we had one last point here that we wanted to make about how they're going to have to convert Anthem, the original game, into a free-to-play game now, right? Because we know consumers out there who drop $60, $100, $200, I think, for the collector's edition, aren't going to be willing to pay full price for the new game because they didn't even get a full game in the first place. And so we have to ask ourselves, can BioWare convert this game into a free-to-play game that is actually successful? And the only example that we've seen of that is Star Wars: The Old Republic. That game launched, was a complete disaster. And then they converted it into a free-to-play game. And the results in terms of revenue, in terms of how well the game did, was middling over time. EA didn't even report with Star Wars: The Old Republic. They didn't even report the revenue results most of the time from Star Wars: The Old Republic to their own investors on investor calls, because how much money it was making was so insignificant to the business, it didn't even matter. So once again, EA is looking at this from a business decision standpoint. Do we want another Star Wars: The Old Republic? Is basically what they're thinking. We funded BioWare to make a big game. We gave them hundreds of millions of dollars. We gave them a giant marketing budget. They launched it, botched. Do we want to do Star Wars: The Old Republic again? Or would we rather take those developers? Would we rather take that team and then put it into a project that's going to make money? Like maybe Dragon Age? Like maybe other franchises? Like maybe they're sports games, maybe they're mobile games, maybe the upcoming Star Wars, the other Star Wars games they're working at, something that just has a chance to actually make something happen. As an executive, I feel like it would be unreasonable to approve Anthem at this point. Like you would be doing a bad service to your own investors to approve this game, given the situation. Look, we don't have all the information. We're not in the boardroom. All we can see is what we see publicly. It's possible, the only thing I think that could save this game, it's possible that when they show up and they're reviewing this, maybe they did an insane amount of work on the game. Maybe the overhaul on the UI is incredible. Maybe the new itemization system is out of this world. Maybe the new concept of how they're going to convert it into a multiplayer free-to-play battle pass game is freaking phenomenal. It's possible that the tiny team of 30 people that worked on this project to make that happen did some unbelievable work, and the executives are going, wow, okay, I'm surprised here. They really pulled something amazing together. I think this has legs. That is possible, but I think that it's incredibly unlikely at this point. Perrin, what do you think about their prospects of converting this single-player game into a free-to-play game now and making that successful? Seems like a little bit of a stretch.
Already tried to make it free-to-play. They didn't make money off of it. So, like, they already have the data they need. So, when they're in
they made it $10, right? They didn't make it free to play, right?
They didn't make it free.
$10,
so
yeah.
They need to try the EA model of free, but with microtransactions, which does require development. You have to develop that system. You have to develop the microtransactions. You have to have the artists and developers working on like the new microtransaction stuff. So there is a time and resource cost to that. If they already have data from making it $10, and that data doesn't look good, I guarantee you when they're in this boardroom, they're not just all like deliberating over what they all think. They're using what data they do have. And if they don't have anything good to go off of, then if they don't have any data that can show, well, if we do this specifically, we could get sales, we could make money. If no one is able to go into that boardroom and make a presentation saying, this is how Anthem is going to make money, then it's not happening. And maybe there is a developer, maybe there is someone within BioWare who can make that case. And I don't know what that is, though. I can't see it. I don't have enough info. I'm not inside enough to know what that could be. But from the outside, I can't see what it would be. I don't see how you make money off of it. Like you have to counter like this really big negative stigma of the franchise now from the past. And a lot of that is like you're not going to be able to charge a lot of money for it because you already jaded a lot of them. So where do you go from here? Microtransactions, maybe that's the solution.
Well, they already have a microtransaction system in the game, and I'd like to highlight the microtransaction system they have in here, Perrin, is unbelievably good. It's maybe the best customization system I've ever seen in a game. So everybody out there that hears us dunking on this, I love Anthem. Love it in all. It's the most fun gameplay I've ever played in my life. The microtransaction system in the game is set up for success. The customization of all the textures and skins and armor pieces and all of that for this game, the level of customization you can do with your javelin is insane. It's like the best ever. Really. It really is the best ever.
Are people buying it though?
People weren't buying it because the game itself didn't have enough depth to keep people interested to come back and play the game, right? If the game had better multiplayer features, if it had deeper systems and mechanics, if the looting was satisfying and you kept people wanting to come back and shoot stuff, then obviously they'd be buying all the armor and they'd be buying all the skins and stuff to make themselves look cool. But if you don't have the hook to get people to come back, the microtransactions don't matter. For example, like with Fortnite, people buy the battle pass to get all those cosmetics. Why? Not because the cosmetics are good. They come back because Fortnite is a compelling gameplay experience that's constantly evolving and changing and is super interesting. That's why they come back to Fortnite. Then once they're in the game, then they buy the microtransactions on top. And so that was the issue with Anthem in the first place, is they didn't have a compelling, deep gameplay experience that had reoccurring content that could get people to come back nonstop, and the fundamental systems were broken. And so if your fundamental systems are broken, it doesn't matter how cool your customization system is. It doesn't matter how cool your microtransaction system is. It doesn't matter how amazing the textures are and the armor looks and the art looks, which is all freaking amazing, maybe the best ever with this game. The core of the game is broke. So that's what they're actually investing in. So how do you make a game where the core of the game is broken and then turn it into a successful free-to-play game? Ross, do you think it's possible at all?
No. It's not. There, number one, like mentioned earlier, the words EA and free do not exist in any world in the same sentence. There's not a multiverse out there where EA is considering doing anything for free. Let's be very, very clear about that. Another point that I do want to make, because I've been shitting on the game here, just completely taking a wild dump on it.
That is true.
But let me be very clear that I do not want, I want this game to come back and I want this to be successful, because I know this is 9 out of 10 times these cases of failed games, it's not on the developers. I know what it's like to completely pour my heart and all my time and energy into a project and then have it fail miserably because of things that are outside my control. I do not wish that on anybody. But I personally hope that developers get to see their vision through. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I guess let's end it here. Final thoughts. Yes or no? Is Anthem 2.0 even going to release? Perrin.
No, I think EA will cut it. The only argument they can make in that boardroom, that's that hypothetical scenario, is some hero at BioWare is going to come into the presentation saying, "Hey, we have microtransactions in this game. Here's the data. It looked promising. We just don't have enough users in there yet. If we can finish the game, if we get enough developers, put more content into it, we can farm money, make you money, EA, pay us, expand our team." No one, who's going to make that presentation? Who's it going to be? There's no leadership. There's no one to even make that case. So I don't see how this, EA cuts it for sure. In my mind, EA cuts it. If they won't.
Yeah. So I will just succinctly state what I stated earlier in a more fine point. I think there's about an 80% chance EA cuts the game, period. They'll leave it up for a while. They won't cut it immediately. They don't want bad press from this. 80% chance they'll just kind of leave the servers up for like a year or so. And then in about a year, once they see the numbers in the game dip down to like 1% or less of what launch engagement was, then they'll fade the game out. And they'll do so, let's say like right before they drop a Dragon Age trailer and they do the Dragon Age reveal. with like gameplay trailer. And so people will be like, Anthem's dead. What's the future of BioWare? Boom, this is the future of BioWare. And then they drop a trailer on Dragon Age and it'll look amazing like this Anthem trailer right here. And people will be like, wow, oh my gosh, I gotta buy pre-order the next game. And they'll use that as a way to jump away from the failure of Anthem. That's 80% chance. 20% chance the executives show up and the Anthem team actually shows them something super compelling and they pitch something like this. They need somebody like me to pitch this to the executives and to talk corpo to them. I don't know if they have it, to Parent's point. Here's the pitch. We are going to take Anthem. We're going to reduce the scale of the game down. We're going to focus on what was fun about the game, the gameplay, the flying around, and the shooting stuff. We're just going to put in some repeatable dungeons with some kind of procedural generation, with some randomized elements, and make a Diablo kind of style looter shooter game. We're going to reduce the story down. We're going to reduce all of the kind of single player elements down, and we're just going to make it a fun rock'em sock'em robots flying around shooting stuff game. We're going to pack the store full of cosmetic microtransactions. People are going to come back to the game. They're just going to shoot stuff, blow stuff up with cool robots. We'll throw in a battle pass to give them cosmetics, and it'll just become a super ultra mega cash cow. We're going to optimize it for next gen consoles, and this is going to be a big success story because we learned this shouldn't have been a single player game because the superstar element of the game wasn't the story. It was actually the gameplay. And that's what we're going to do now. Here's how much money I need, and here's my team, and here's how much money that's going to make you long term, because Battle Pass and microtransaction is the future of this game. We're all about hardcore monetization. We're going to release it for free. We're going to hook people with that gameplay, and we're going to monetize the hell out of them with quarterly Battle Pass releases. Think Fortnite, but with flying robots and Iron Man. Are you in, executive? Before you answer, let's go get drinks tonight. Let's go get drunk as hell. I'll buy you some Kobe beef. It's $79. It's $79 per ounce of steak. Are you in? So if that guy's in the room and that guy can make that corpo executive pitch, 20% chance it'll happen. 80% chance this thing is done. Back to you, Ross.
Yeah, I do not see a situation where this happens at all. And I really do hope that eventually, if the developers do not get a chance to see their vision come to life, I hope their next project that they really do, because it's heartbreaking to go through something like this. And like I said, have it be completely out of your control. Any final thoughts here, boys?
I just final thoughted it.
Did you, Perrin? Anything else?
I know I've been shitting on it too. I really do hope it succeeds. BioWare used to be my favorite development company, and I hope that they get their shit together. I hope they come back even stronger than they were before, but I'm skeptical.
Stronger together, freelancers.
All right, we'll be back next week. By the way, Gaming Creator Bundle. Go sign up. Win $1,100 of free cool shit. We'll see you next week.